It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
We're not ready. The show's interrupting our conversation off the air. Yeah. Oh, we're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Having a good conversation. All right, so I really don't want to go into the story. I mean, we may cover it more, when we talk about education and stuff like that. But as we were, getting ready to come on, besides our conversation, I was also looking at this story in the Wall Street Journal on, let me get the schools are ditching homework deadlines in favor of equitable grading. And I just laughed out loud at this first paragraph.
Okay. All right.
Las Vegas high school teacher Laura Jean Penrod initially thought the grading changes at her school district made sense. Under the overhaul, students were given more chances to prove that they had mastered a subject without being held to arbitrary deadlines in recognition of the challenges some students have outside school. So arbitrary deadlines was bad.
Right.
Soon after the system was introduced, however, Ms. Penrod said her 11th grade honors students realized the new rules minimized the importance of homework to their final grades, leading many to forego the brainstorming and rough drafts required ahead of writing a persuasive essay. Some didn't turn in the essay at all, knowing that they could redo it later. They're relying on children having intrinsic motivation, and that is the furthest thing from the truth with this age group.
Oh.
And they go on to the number of states using equitable grading. And then this all related to the story I saw was at West Virginia University now drops SAT and ACT admissions requirements to reduce stress of some college application in the college application process.
Well, then why not just hand them a diploma? I mean, what's not stressful in the entire process? Everything is stressful as you go through it. So just hand them a diploma.
And why is it? Why do we do these things to children? Is because we wish to teach them how to handle pressure slowly as children so they can handle pressure and they can handle the stress that comes with deadlines when they get older and get into the real world.
You should be nervous before a test. You should be nervous during the process. You should be nervous because it is your body and your mind preparing you. And you either respond, you respond in a couple of different ways. Either you understand what's at stake and what's expected of you, and you live up to it by preparing properly, or you ditch it and walk away.
I mentioned, the other day that we were talking about degrees, and I said I had a degree. And I've been asked before, people said, well, what was the biggest benefit of you getting a college degree in the last couple of years, especially with everything that has gone on? And I said, in real-world terms, what was the benefit of college for me? Organizing my time.
Yeah.
And that's because I worked 2 jobs and went to school because I didn't want debt. So I never stopped.
Yeah.
And I had to organize in order to succeed at all of them. It was a lot of organization in my head, a lot of planning, a lot of, okay, I got a busy day. I've got to get all of this done. And where the stress part of it became normal, we've talked about this before that and this is a negative in some arenas, but the biggest motivator I ever had that truly motivated me to actually accomplish things was fear.
Yeah.
Fear has been my greatest motivator. There's nothing that comes close to it. And climbing those mountains, which is the mountain is fear.
Yeah.
Can I do it? I don't know if I can do it. It's really hard to do it. And I think probably from my parents, I got the mindset, don't worry about it, just do it. Don't worry about the fear of what the challenge is. Just do the work. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And after repetition of doing it many times, and that's what you do, that's what we teach kids. That's why you go through first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. All of it is basically you're learning more, but there's the repetition of learning and organizing your mind also that comes with it. And the repetition of doing it each and every day. So when you hopefully get to be an adult, you have handled a significant number of stresses where it's pretty seamless going into the workforce. But we have seen where there was a story written last week about, was it 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 young people in their 20s are getting fired because the companies go, their mindset as to what they expect out of a workplace is completely delusional.
Right. But also the problem of sending them off into the world with this inability to learn and the lack of a process. And during that time when you're nervous and you're saying, oh, my gosh, the test is tomorrow, and you often lose sleep. A lot of people don't sleep the night before. You know, the stories are legendary. I was up all night cramming. Kamala and I smoked weed before we studied, and I don't remember a thing. And now
I talk in circles.
I'm freaking out. And she's over there talking in circles. If you're just joining us, you're going to have to listen to the podcast today. And so you really are. And so you build that. Brian Regan, oh, man, he had a great quote. It was in an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and he talked about the butterflies. And he basically was saying, and I wish I had the quote because it's really unfair. I'll find it and we'll reintroduce it later. But the butterflies are there to prepare you. That was the sentiment. And Seinfeld was like, man, I like that. And that was actually the last, as the credits were fading, that was pretty much the last thing said on that episode. And I was like, no, that's actually genius. And it is true because I've often thought about that. And I remember one of my children when they were in high school, and I remember going into the room, I could hear, something, and I was like, hey, everything okay? And they were really nervous, and I said, hey, okay, you can do this. You've already proven you can do this. So what do you want? First of all, do you want a snack? Do you want something to eat? Let's create the environment. What do you want? Do we need a lamp in here? Where would you like to sit? What do you want to snack on? I'll go to the store. I'll name anything. What I was attempting to do is help build a process, right? And I have to do this the way my brain works is that, all right, what do I need? Yesterday, a project that was last minute, but it had to be done because we thought the severe weather was coming in, and with this particular project needed to be completed, really. It was kind of a do or die. And so my wife texted me these steps in the I got nervous. I was like, oh. I had everything. It wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't complete the project. But 30 minutes later, I'm out there in the pouring rain, and I completed the project. But I thought to myself, why am I nervous about this? And it was, well, I want to get it right because of all the work that had been put into this up till now, that if I didn't just go through the process, the simple process of completing this, then it was all the work put into it up until now, mostly hers, basically, all hers up until that point, was going to be for naught. And it made me nervous. And these are the things that you go through in life. But if you don't have that and you're not used to that, then you are going to be a 25-year-old in the unemployment line because you won't know how to learn.
The fear of the nervousness, whatever, is what prepares you. I mean, as you talked about before, the comedians talking about it, the fear creates the fact that you have to. The fear creates the process.
Yes.
I mean, if you're organized, okay, there's a fear there, but I got to ignore the fear. I've got to have the process to finish it. I know that to use the school equivalency as they're using here, that they talk about the fact that no, we don't need to hold them to arbitrary deadlines because there's challenges that kids have outside school. Nobody cared that I had 2 jobs. Nobody in school cared that I had 2 jobs. I had to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And I decided to do that because, well, number one, the one job was fun, the club DJ, but the other job was also, that was also a huge thing for me because I worked at a bank and it was great. And I liked that. I liked the status that came with it, and I earned good money, and I could pay off my debt. But I also knew that I had to do good in school. I remember taking a calculus course. We would be in there whenever the library opened at 6 a.m. in the morning. We were there. We had a study group every single day, and the midterm came. I'll never forget, in the one calculus course, and I got an F, and the guy I was doing it with got a D-. And he, in the midterms, and it's like this. I've got to get this to get through my first year. I have to get in the calculus. It's just. You talk about in college. I went to college. And I did mind expanding drugs. I did calculus because that takes your mind to areas where your mind is just not used to going to. It's tough to do, and so we thought we were going to fail. We really did. And when the time came, I'll never forget how nervous I was going up to look at the grade, outside the teacher's office. The grades are posted, and we go there. I have a B+. The guy I did the study group with, he gets an A-. And we're absolutely shocked. We're like, how can it go from an F in the midterm? It didn't seem like we did much better on the test. And the teacher's there smiling. He goes, I did it on a curve. He said, I actually made it a lot harder. So you even learned more than the curriculum that you were supposed to for Calculus 1.
Right.
And so he did the complete opposite. I was never so proud of a B+ in my life, ever.
Yeah.
And it all was because I knew I earned it. And because of the entire process I had to go through of the fear and the nervousness and everything else of failure, and seeing that teacher smile, it's embedded in my mind. I look at that as one of my greatest accomplishments because calculus was so incredibly hard for me. One of my greatest accomplishments in school. It was just a B+. But it meant the world to me at that point. And that's the thing. If it's not work and it's, whatever you get is fine or whatever. No, the intensity is what made the victory greater.
Yeah, right.
And what they're saying is the intensity and the fear is bad. And I'm like, every fiber of my being from my experience says, no, that's what you eventually have to go through. So you need to start testing kids and young adults on that early on. They need to understand there is pressure.
Yeah.
And there are deadlines. And what you have to do is you have to climb those mountains. You have to challenge them. And then you get to the point in your life where it's like you still want to prepare, but that fear is really gone. It's like, well, no, my whole life always changes. So, change is a part of life, and you become used to it. And that's where you want to get to ultimately as an adult.
Right.
So you don't crash when the major challenges come in life.
Well, and, I've had, and we probably have all had, teachers that had a different approach. And they understand. But what they teach you to do is to utilize that nervous feeling, to use that, to over-prepare. I talk about Coach Valdez, who suggested maybe I try out for band and not football, as the man who became the wrestler Shawn Michaels was lapping everybody on the track, and I ended up being a musician. But in class, Coach Valdez would often bring his guitar or play music, Boz Scaggs' greatest hits, usually. And during tests, he wanted to create this environment, basically, that was, all right, you know this, we've been through all this, relax, and just do the test. Now, I don't know if it worked for everybody, but I do know remembering how I felt in that class, and also learning that this isn't about handing you anything. You're going to have to pass the test, but it's how you're going to approach it. So it's not just about using those butterflies or that nervous energy. It's about understanding it, why it exists, and also helping to mitigate the energy to begin with. So that then beyond that, you can, in the case of your teacher, well, those kids were all learning something a little more. They were going above and beyond. He created that curve. Well, once you start to understand that, if you're curious at a very young age, that means you're likely going to be pretty curious about things as you grow older. And you create, instead of the nervous energy, you're creating a drive that leads to great minds. And we're going to do away with that now. Let's not make them nervous or scared. Why require them to be there at all?
866-90 Red Eye.
It's part of the preparation to combat wildfires this season. U.S. Forest Service Chief Randy Moore updating House Natural Resources Subcommittee members on Wednesday.
This past January, we announced investments of $930 million in 21 high-risk landscapes in the West, benefiting roughly 200 communities and many other resources that people value. In addition, we've awarded nearly $200 million in community wildfire defense grants toward 100 projects to 22 states and 7 tribes.
The chief added,
all of our work to reduce wildfire risk become increasingly important in the face of another upcoming busy western fire season.
And he says, in addition to Forest Service firefighting personnel and equipment at the ready for the upcoming wildfire season,
we will fully engage with state, local, and tribal partners ready to respond with us.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report is made possible by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Diesel and Citgo Lubricants.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90 Red Eye. All right, new poll, Fox News poll across the board. Voters say economy getting worse for them. In January of 2020, all right, 55% of Americans thought the economy was good, 44% only fair or poor. By the time you got a year later, December of 2020, well, 11 months later, 33% the economy excellent or good, 66% only fair or poor. By the time we got to March of 2023, 23% good, 77% only fair or poor. Now, 21% say it's excellent or good, 78% only fair or poor. Wow. That's a tough sell for any president.
What you see happening is what analysts have been talking about. Jamie Dimon from the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase talked about the dwindling savings. Any savings that was left from people would be gone by this summer. Mm-hmm. And they're seeing that. They're seeing those savings go away. But you also see the accelerated rate of auto loan delinquencies.
Yeah.
Which is also coupled with the increase in the cost of automobiles.
You did preface that at the start of the show. I want some of the figures of that you had coming up.
Good. We'll talk more about that coming up.
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. You know, you would mention it to me at the beginning of the show, and we just got into so many other topics out there, but you had seen the research that was done on car loans out there, and This is really, really interesting, especially the amount that people are financing that they were financing before COVID and now after COVID.
Yeah, and in terms of the average buy, it is now over 40. It is now right at 40,000, and the average buy, the average purchase was right at 30 pre-COVID. Wow. So now, if you break it down then into new cars, you're looking at above 45,000. In fact, actually, it's $49,000. Right under $50,000, the average cost of it, and that is if you break it down into non-luxury versus luxury, then the non-luxury is right at around $45,000, and then the luxury vehicles are far above $50,000 on the average. But if you put all those together, luxury and non-luxury, you come up with a new car purchase, according to Cox Automotive, average of just under $50,000. Then you add the current rates. If people are financing a huge chunk of that, then you're looking at massive car payments of, I don't know what that would be, $1,000, $1,200 a month, whatever it is, and depending on the term of the loan, how long it's going to be. But it is staggering to look at it. And some of the other media, they use this data that comes from Cox Automotive as they break down what goes on with these loans, but also auto loan delinquency rates. And right now, this goes back to early March. I think there may be an updated report from early April. I was looking for it, wasn't able to find it. But as of March, delinquency rates on loans now rising beyond and this is loans that are 60 or more days past due. In January of this year, year over year, they were up 20.4%. And so you look at that, and the Fisher Investments had a post about this from their editorial staff going back to early March. Auto loans aren't likely to tank the economy. Well, I don't know if anybody was claiming they were going to tank the economy, but they're a strong indicator as to what's going on with the economy. Because, there is that cycle of, what happens with these delinquent loans? If they don't work it out with the lender, then, they repossess the car. And then they take an auction, and then that car goes back in the marketplace. And so then you look at, all right, but why is it so hard to maintain the loan for so many people? Why are those rates up year over year? And keep in mind, they were rising before. I don't know. I don't have the January 22 numbers year over year in front of me. But they were rising as we went throughout 22, and they were, because of the whole COVID thing, you did see an increase in that. But if you look at a pretty stellar increase of over 20%, these are loans that are past due by 60 days or more, then that's huge. It is. That's massive. And so that's an indicator. Is that going to tank the economy? Well, I don't know anybody claiming that, but it's an indication that the economy is getting worse, especially if it's accurate, and it seems to be that savings are being drawn down to nothing. And if that is the case, then you're looking at people running out of, and we saw the rate of rents dropping. You add all these things together, and they point to a downturn in the economy. And the question becomes, okay, then what? Because a lot of the stuff that was set up under the whole COVID emergency relief thing, all that is, over. Anything that wasn't over is ending at the end of this month. So a lot of stuff is basically phasing out and has been in recent months. In the first few months of this year, the food assistance program and everything else that they, the added, expanded food assistance program went away and everything else. And you have people looking at, okay, what is it, that I have left in my budget? You and I have talked about where is that threshold where people go from the quiet quitter and say, I don't want to work a second job. I don't even like working the full-time job so much, but I'm not going to go out and get a second job. There is a threshold that will come in where it's, okay, I'm going to have to eat, so maybe I get a second job or a better job or whatever it is. There will be that threshold, but I don't know that we've reached that. I haven't seen any analysis on that.
And I really wonder how long, when you look at the car situation, because that's getting so expensive and new cars are just going to keep going up and up in price.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many people are going to keep their cars longer. I mean, because cars are, better built than they were 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. They're just better built. And I look at my second vehicle that I have, which is, to carry stuff around and all that, turns next week. I think it was built on May 6th of 2003. Mm-hmm. My vehicle, my old vehicle, and it doesn't look old. Now, it's in Texas, so there's no rust on it, which is key. I mean, odds are this isn't, it would have been gone, 8 years ago probably?
Yeah.
If I had it up north. But the fact is, when the last time, and I'll be going into my dealership here. I'll be going into the dealership for both vehicles, but I'm going to celebrate the 20 years because it's the dealership that I bought it at. It's going to be 20 years old. I wonder if they want to take a picture of it, and it's good marketing. I think Al Bundy did that with his Dodge at one time. It was going to go over 999,000 miles, and everybody wanted to know, about it, and it was a publicity. He was going to get a new vehicle if he could document it going to a million. But I have I think I'm at 240,000.
Yeah.
And I don't drive it a lot. I probably drive it less, 5,000 miles or less a year. Mm-hmm. But it's great to run around town and pick up stuff. And, it's like I don't care about it, the vehicle, but it is a great vehicle. It drives fantastic. And I'm thinking to myself all the time, because Independent Bob told me, he said, you don't have to keep that car. You keep it around because you're just loyal to things. You don't want to let them go. It's like, okay, maybe you have a little point there.
I do miss my old truck. I wish now that I wouldn't have traded it in.
It is the first vehicle that I bought that I really wanted in my life, where I said, wow. And I was actually doing a live broadcast for our flagship station, WBAP, at an auto dealership. I remember Don, who used to go on, Don, who had retired from Delta.
Yeah.
He pointed it out to me. He said, look at this vehicle. This is a great vehicle. I remember looking at it and thinking, wow, this is so luxurious. This is luxury, man, personified. This is just great. I look at it now and it's just so basic, but compared to the modern cars today, it's got a cassette deck, and it has a cassette deck, and and none of it works. I use the Bluetooth adapter to play my phone through it if I drive it. And I drove it to work, I think, once this week. But it's a great vehicle. I mean, it just rides great. And I'm thinking to myself, when you think about, now, I paid cash for it, so, I mean, I've never had any debt on it back in 2003. But when I think that I really haven't put a lot of money into it. I really have not put a lot of money into it's always been there. I mean, every time everything needs to be done, it's done. And I'm extremely proactive. They go, yeah, you're the only person. We don't need to ask anything. If it needs to be done, you want it done. And, I know enough about cars to know they're never ripping me off on anything that they do. And so, but I haven't really, and I think about, remember, I don't know if it's the same. Remember, people used to be trading in their cars every 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care whether you're leasing that or however you're doing it, you're paying big money to do that. over the long period of time rather than just taking the one hit. And if you spread it out over the period of time of the maintenance I've done on this particular vehicle, I wonder how many people are going to keep their cars 15 years.
Well, I think...
Or 10 years, that whatever increases the, how much the average is going to go up, especially in more warmer climates of the United States.
Well, just the fact that affordability is, and that's one thing that Cox Automotive, they measure a lot of the metrics in auto financing and everything else, including affordability. And they look at, like the average price of a loan recently, in recent months, if you add it, was basically about a half of a point interest added to the loan, but for a lot of people it's more, and so there's the question: if you have an income that allows you to buy a vehicle, and it's really not a great consideration. I think there was. It's an old story by Dave Ramsey where a guy called in and was talking about, hey, can I afford this car? And then Ramsey asked him, well, how much do you make? It's $800,000 a year. Buy the car. And it's there are people, that don't have that same consideration or for whatever reason they just don't have the same expenditures, and so they can carve out a lot more in their budget for a car. But most people, or I would say for the average person, there's always great consideration. And it's not just the emotional buy anymore because of inflation.
No, it's got to be practical.
The prices have jumped so much.
And isn't
you've got to, certainly there are those features that you want for safety and everything else. But you're also shopping for that bargain.
And
everybody is.
And isn't that why that makes electric vehicles more impractical?
Yes, because of the process required for the charging. If you're not already set up for that or living somewhere where that is amenable to your daily routine, then it's going to be a big step for you.
But as the price...
It's not just the price of the vehicle itself, but also changing your routine, and also the price of maybe upgrading your situation at home on your electricity, what you need to charge it at home.
I guess my point is when it becomes more expensive, then you want more. You want, and more means more. One means more convenience.
You expect
you don't want hassle.
Right.
If you have to pay that kind of money for a vehicle.
You want quite possibly larger, and EVs aren't, the largest.
You want more practical.
You want something more practical. You want something more for your money.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-I. Okay, I got to read a couple of headlines from the Babylon Bee. I was sitting there, the show's getting ready to end. I go, wonder how the Babylon Bee, what their headlines look like. All right, here we go. Fauci says he never locked anything down and has never heard of COVID. Buttigieg announces closure of interstate system for 8 to 10 days as highways undergo racial sensitivity training. Don Lemon to continue job of lecturing people as a Starbucks barista.
I saw that one the other day. That's funny.
In an ominous threat to the nation, Biden says he'll finish the job. But my favorite, probably, just because it's so blunt, creepy old man says he thinks of your kids as his own. And, of course, it's showing Biden making that statement.
I was trying to write a line for that when he's, and I thought, oh, come on, there's something there with Creepy Joe. Well, of course, they nailed it at the Babylon Bee.
That sheet, wow.
Yeah.
Got to be very careful there. That
Cheat
sheet
Yes.
yesterday
Yes.
that was mind-boggling
Yeah.
because it shows, again, as we said, it shows basically, in my opinion, the L.A. Times reporter, they asked beforehand, what question are you going to ask, and we'll go to you.
Yeah.
That's mind-boggling to me. But the thing that was really the most fascinating was the details you could see of the photos, in the photos
Oh, yeah.
of the actual cheat sheet that the president has. That's going to come back and bite him big time, I believe.
Yeah, it will.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.